Being that it's 9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting in order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have the agenda in front of us here. Is there any additions or corrections, or if not, is there a motion to approve the agenda as is? I'll make that a motion. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move on to the approving the previous board minutes from April 16th. Everybody's had a chance to review those. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
So moved.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. Now we'll go to the public comment section. Is there anybody who would like to make a public comment? Chuck, you want to come forward and have a seat? Identify yourself and where you're from so people know on camera.
My name is Chuck Schulte, and I live in Caledonia, about 2 blocks down the street here on Marshall Street. I come to visit about, I left off this sheet with questions. I realize that I am late to the discussion. I understand that. Probably you're going to move on this today, I don't know, but I have some concerns, as you can see by if you read the list of questions I have there. And maybe when the sheriff, who I also gave a copy, talks about this, I'm trying to figure out what an efficient way to do this. I don't want to be repetitive and waste people's time, but I would like these questions answered. I don't know which is the best time to do it, when you're discussing it or now, but I have some concerns, you know, as you can see there. If you're discussing a juvenile detention center, and you have to ask yourself, why aren't there any? Because there's very few. Research that I have done. And one says, well, why are there such few juvenile detention centers? And you have to say, well, what are the requirements of these juvenile detention centers? So I guess I'm trying to find out what those requirements are and what burdens they put on our school district, you know, public health, whatnot. I mean, what juveniles I know are handled in a completely different way than an adult detention. I'm concerned that we have thought all the way through this, so we don't go into it with a lot of optimism, but it don't turn out like we think it's gonna, because the building across from us here didn't really work out like it was supposed to work out. From what 82, 84 bed jail, and it's like 2 prisoners in it. I mean, something didn't pan out. So after I'm up here paying my taxes, this is a really good time to stop and ask that question. So that's what I'm here for. And I don't know if any of you want to answer these questions, or do you want to wait to Mr. Swedberg answer the question?
We can have ask these questions when we have our discussion on the action item.
Okay, well then I don't want to, you know, take up the board's time.
Okay.
But that's my concern. I want to have some comfort to know that this has been thought through, and I'm not trying to insult anybody with anything like that. Just
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, Chuck. Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to make a public comment?
459 number.
There's a 459-4193. Would you like to make a comment? I'm not, you know, identify yourself just so we have you on the record of being in the meeting. Looks like they're not muted. So.
I do not.
Yes. You want to identify yourself so we can put you on record of attending the meeting or?
Oh, sure. Amy Mulling.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Any other public comment? All right. We'll move on to appointments. We have the Renee from DOC. Yep. Would you like to come forward and present your review of the comprehensive Department of Corrections plan?
Sure. I'm Renee Patterson. I'm the district supervisor for the Department of Corrections in the Winona District, which includes Houston County. You have a copy of our Houston County Comprehensive Plan. We have been doing this for years already. I've been in this position for 27 years. So we have been doing it. However, it's required by statute now that we put it in writing. So that's why you're seeing it now and you haven't seen it in the past.
Okay.
I sent the comprehensive plan out to the Houston County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council for their input and feedback already, and they gave their blessing on it. So what I'm here for is to ask for approval from all the board members here to use the current Criminal Justice Coordinating Council to act as my advisory board to meet our statutory requirements, which we have been doing all along. When we have questions or there's concerns or we need input on something, we run that by the advisory board first. So that's what it is. And we have the plan that we put together for your review. And we've been doing this for years already. It's just now in writing.
Could you go through some of the highlights of here? What's new? Like, is there something new that it was in the statute that?
There's really nothing new. This is what we've been doing.
Okay.
So there's really nothing new in there. Excuse me. We just added stuff about the overall Department of Corrections in there, which again isn't new. Some statistics, our local office here, and I've been supervising the local office here since I think 2010, when we converted from a county probation office to Department of Corrections. So same, nothing is new here. We supervise the adults, all the adults and the juveniles here. I have agents out of the Winona office that supervise special caseloads down in Houston County. So they also come down here and use that. And we have intensive supervised release that supervise our very high risk clients. That typically they're the ones that come out of the institutions. They're on supervised release and they come down and supervise them here as well. So. Yeah.
At the same time, some of the DOC people down here do go to other sites.
Yes, they do.
It's back and forth.
It is back and forth. We help each other when we're low staffed, of course. We help each other, or when there's excessive workload, we do help each other with that as well. So we have office space in Winona that they can use, as well as when they come down here, we allow them to use that. So it's kind of a back and forth, so we have things covered. And if there's some difficult cases or conflict cases, we also go back and forth with those as well.
So you'll be working with the juveniles, if we take on juveniles, you'll be having.
Oh, we still do that.
Bet
That's not changed. We've already done that. And we have 2 agents in the Caledonia office here that are stationed here full time. Jennifer Worm and Nicole Klug, and they've been here for a very long time as well. So.
It's stated in here that you helped with the county to assess the juvenile detention center needs and.
Yes, we are
Do you-
providing some data for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to share with us as far as what data was?
I believe there was some data that was sent to the sheriff just last night that we requested, so I'm not sure if he even has
Okay.
that stuff. I mean, we sent that up for our data and records department to get that information to help with that.
I had a question about, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot or nothing.
No, that's
I'm
okay.
trying to get more information.
Yeah, that's okay.
there's a brief paragraph here about victim concerns and victim services.
On what page are you looking?
Well, be
Or-
8.
Page 8, okay.
So we have a victim services coordinator.
Yes, you do.
Is there? I mean, there's a lot of talk in here about people that are in trouble that need help and
Mhm.
this and that. Is there any emphasis on victim services to help people, victims of these?
And I will tell you, Houston County has an excellent victim services
Okay.
program. You have an excellent program compared to a lot of them that I've worked with. So my agents work very well with your coordinator here. Sometimes the victims are concerned about some of the laws and the stuff that we have no control over.
Yeah.
And now there's been some things that have passed, like the 5-year probation cap that passed in the last legislative session that victims are concerned about, that we have no control over. We try to, keep them apprised of everything that's going on as much as possible. But again, in Houston County, I got to tell you, you have an excellent victim services program, and she does a great job, and she works very well with us. So a lot of the victims and cases that we have, she assists them. So
I'm sure it's a tough job because you're dealing with people that have been, victimized and then they're dealing with the reality of, well, you got the 5-year cap on probation.
yes, yeah,
And that's a little frustrating to the.
very much so. Yes.
So is there a push by the state to not imprison people, or, I mean?
I'm not really sure right now what their angle with that is. I know the 5-year probation cap was something to put caps on stuff and getting people in the institutions programming and doing more evidence-based programming and treatment, because just merely locking some people up doesn't always work. They need programming with that and education, and we want to make them, be successful in the community and hold jobs and pay taxes and all that good stuff. So that's kind of what we've been working towards, getting a lot of treatment available. So.
So are we required by statute to approve this?
That's what they're asking us to do, just to get the blessings of the county board that we can use the CJCC as our advisory board. So if we have issues, we can take it to the CJCC, which is what we already do, why we've established that. I believe Bob's on that committee. And, when we have concerns or things come up, we all talk about it and try to come up with a solution that's beneficial to everybody. So that's kind of what the statutory requirements are, is that we're able to use that board in that capacity, which is what we've been doing. Again, they're just asking us to come to the county board with this plan to get a blessing from the county board.
So Bob, you're familiar with this? Involved with all
And the
this?
discussions that are had. It's the courts, the judge, the administration, the defense attorneys, the county attorney. I'm representing the county board. And it's a discussion, all these different issues that come up. Just being one of them as far as the DOC is concerned. And the DOC.
Yeah.
People are there too.
Yeah.
So does DOC conduct a lot of their business via Zoom?
As far as me being here or with the clients, or
with clients,
it's a mixture. Obviously, we had a lot of Zoom stuff during COVID.
right?
But no, there's a lot in office visits, home visits, so they're out in the field. And we do have agents that come down here and they're out in the field, but there's also meetings that occur via Zoom or another platform.
CJCC meetings are Zoom.
Yeah.
The CJCC meetings are Zoom.
Right.
Yeah,
Attorneys from Winona and whatnot, have to drive down here,
yeah.
Rochester.
So I also read in here too that you're short staffed in Winona County, so Houston County's been helping out with that a lot.
Yep, and we've done the same thing. Yeah, we've done the same thing here when we were short staffed and short support staff. Then we have Winona County staff help out here. So it goes both ways.
Is Winona County planning on filling that?
Yes, it's been filled.
Oh, it has? Been?
Yes. Mhm. Yep.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Look pretty good.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, next up is the consent agenda. Everybody's had a chance to review that. There's 5 items on the consent agenda. Is there any changes or additions or whatever, corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Just would note on item number 3, you've got an MOA with the union on that, so. MOU, I should say.
That's kind of what we were waiting for in the first place, right?
Correct. Yep.
That said, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move on to action items. Action item number 1, consider request to approve the Houston County Jail adding an 8-day juvenile detention center to the facility. Ryan?
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning. Morning.
I was looking in the packet for any information, but I didn't see any.
Oh. So I don't have written information. I'm just gonna repeat and let you know where we're at so far. I think we're at a point that we need to get approval or to move forward this total approval. So also the school can also move forward their part and not have too much investment without security from county board on this. But I'm gonna reiterate everything a little bit. So the 8-day jail facility, juvenile jail facility, is needed in the county, even the southeast area. The only 2 8-day holding facilities is in Carver County, which is on the west side of the Twin Cities, in Washington County, which is on the east side of Twin Cities. There is no other 8-day holding facility, so a temporary holding facility for juveniles. There's long-term facilities, but they're also short on beds also. We've had a lot of requests out there asking for a number, but no one will give us exact number of beds they need. They all agree they're in desperate need of it, but they can't guarantee a number right now at this time. What we're looking at for the 8-day facility, we'd be able to hold up to 8 juveniles for up to 8 days, not including weekends and holidays. So it'd be this temporary holding facility. Maybe it'll hold both male and females. We have 2 different pods we use for them. Depending on what population would be, we could use both cells for males or one for female, one for males. We're looking at $300 a day per juvenile per bed. And then if they contracted a bed for 365 days, it'd be $250 a day. So roughly, if they contracted, it'd be 91,000. $91,250 if they contracted the bed for the whole year. So I mean, I can't give you a number since it's all new to everybody. You're looking at total income possible coming into. You did $300 a day per 8 beds, it'd be 876,000 of income coming. But I can't guarantee that. No one else will guarantee you a bed right now. They say that they're in demand for it and they need it. But I don't have numbers. Attorney Yant isn't talked to the other attorneys in the area to see their needs and demands. Besides them saying they could use it. I did reach out to Probation Officer Klug. She did email last week. She got responses back that I've seen so far is 6 counties, I believe it was, and they all agree they could use the bed. They didn't give us numbers yet. on how many they're anticipating using. For probation part or for the DOC part, I've been working with the DOC, we had everything approved. She came down to facility once, looked it over. She said that facility is feasible to make that into an 8-day juvenile holding facility with very minimal costs. The cost realistically for the facility would be having the site part of it. Adults and juveniles can't see each other, so we just got to block the site of it, which realistically is to burn some curtains up or some magnetic curtains. So the juveniles and males can't see each other, and they'd be taken down or moved when needed. For the staffing training, training is all in-house. Either it be online training or in-person trainings. There's very minimal cost in that. And I just believe the staff's been doing a lot of the online training to be in advance of this. The DOC then needs to come down, do another inspection with it to finish the application. Since we're all new to this, the DOC, everybody, the DOC is somewhat new. The lady I've been dealing with has only been there for 2 years, and she's never dealt with this 8-day holding facility also. So it's all new to everybody here. So we're all taking our time, trying to make sure we understand and get everything done correctly. So within a week or so, she'd like to come down and start working on the application. That's why I'm here at the county board to get approval for this. And also I believe Superintendent Erke would like to have some security so he can move forward also with this portion. For the educational portion, it'd be up to school district to provide the education and decide what type of education the students need. I'll let the superintendent talk about that here shortly. So I guess for a couple of questions that were given to me earlier, I guess I can answer those quick. The requirements to operate the juvenile detention center, it's pretty close to the same as adults. There's other requirements, which the training will take care of how to handle the juveniles. For psychological, that's all included our medical right now. Both physical and mental, it's included. So there's no additional cost for that. Healthcare the same way. Healthcare is included in our contract. Also, the question was asked about additional insurance. To my knowledge, and I talked to Carol also, we don't see any additional cost to insurance would increase at all. Staffing right now is adequate. Well, we got more than one person short. We're adequate right now when we get that person replaced. Depending on realistically on how this all goes, and the demand for it, possibly might need to retalk that. But right now, looking at it, we don't need to add anybody.
So let's say you have a couple of juveniles that are in, do you have to have separate staff for those juveniles versus the adults?
No, staffing is both the same.
So that same staff can take care of both.
Both, yes. The only thing is that if there's a juvenile female there, we have to have a female detention deputy. That's the only real criteria.
And if you don't, then we can't take them.
Correct. And I guess we'd possibly look at seeing if it would be worthwhile calling in someone for overtime, or if we have a part-time person that we can call in and come in.
Is that female 24? I mean, if there's a female in the for the 8 days plus the weekends and holidays, a female 24/7 or during the
No, the entire time, 24/7. Whenever there's a female in there, there has to be a female detention deputy. Let's see, asked about what kind of staffing requirements, I spoke about that, additional training, I spoke about that. Why 8-day facility? Right now, an 8-day facility, I think it's a good for us to look into. It's very high demand for temporary holding. Realistically, if this 8-day goes good for us, we can definitely have a discussion down the road if we want to transition to a full juvenile facility, but that's quite a ways down the road, I believe. I know there's demand for it, but I don't know if the county wants to go dive into that right now.
And the whole purpose is the 8 days. Plus holidays and weekends. Provides time to find another site for that juvenile.
Correct. For example, I don't want to go into detail. We have a female juvenile way up north. She possibly might need to come down to Winona for a dentist appointment or surgery. So we'd have to go up there, and it's close to a 7-hour drive. So we'd have to send 2 people up there because she's a female, a male and a female. They'd stay overnight since it's a 7-hour drive. They pick her up, drive her back to her appointment in Winona. Since the surgery is going to take a couple hours at least, I would assume. Now they already have a 7-hour drive and plus 2 hours surgery. They're not going to turn around that same day and drive her back way up north. So now we have to find a housing for her, which will be most likely in the cities, Washington or Carver County. We put her there, but now we have to pay for the motel for 2 of their staff still for the night. And then they wake up the next day, drive her up to way up north and drop her off. And hopefully they can make it back time allowed without staying another night. But that's just us. I mean, every other county is exactly the same with these kind of issues. If we had our 8-day facility, she could stay here during the time because also she need to come back for repeat dental visits. And so we'd have to start that whole process again.
But you're still gonna take her back up north.
Correct, but then we wouldn't have to find housing for her and then possibly stay in the cities with the 2 employees. They could stay here for the night, and possibly if she needed to, hypothetically, if she needed to see the oral surgeon the next day, then we're really having problems. Especially when juveniles go to court, if they are in a long-term facility and they need to come back to court, they can stay in our facility for the time period they need to go to court or wherever they need to be for whatever county. So this is not the initial arrest, it's anytime they need temporary housing.
That would be in addition to the initial arrest cases that people.
Correct. And realistically, we move more juveniles than throughout the year than we arrest. Because we might arrest 1 juvenile once, but we're moving them 5 more times throughout the year for temporary housing.
That part's not gonna go away.
No, but then we
Temporary
can house them here then.
for 8 days, but
Right.
where are they gonna go after that?
And that's when they go back to the other facility. So if they need to come back for court or need to see whoever, they can stay here instead of staying in a different facility.
And that's the whole point, is that you've got someplace to put them until things are arranged and until you've got someplace to put them. They've gone through their initial hearing, they've gone through whatever the initial time frame requires. And you've lined up a place to put them on a long-term basis.
Correct. And then if the long term they need to come back, then this would be the temporary person.
So are we contracting this education through the high school, or how does that work?
I guess me and Superintendent Eric have been talking. I believe we would need some type of contract between the county and the school district. Right now, since it's totally new to both of us, we have to continue discussion on that, and also probably have Attorney Yant involved in it. Because I don't feel it's right for us to start this in the school district to be negative and have the cost to them.
So there's gonna be a cost to this contract to the county, correct?
With school district?
Yep.
I don't know the answer. I guess I'm gonna let superintendent talk about that because they can bill back. When the kids come here, they bill back the other school districts. When the
That
kids
they
are-
came from, where that juvenile came from?
Right. I'd like for him to speak about that though.
Greg, would you like to come forward?
as Sheriff Swedberg spoke about, we've been kind of, I wouldn't say we haven't dove into this, but I've been dipping my feet into it. Been in contact with Carver County, and I believe it's South Washington County Schools that serve Carver County District or Detention Center. And the people that are in the South Washington schools weren't there when the program started. So the questions I had, how do you start this? How do you start billing? They know how to bill after the fact, but they didn't know how to get the thing started. And in talking with Sam earlier, it sounds like some of the counties might be willing to pay up front for a seat to be held. But as Sheriff Swedberg mentioned, you can, and we've been on the receiving end of some of the bills where some of our students have been detained elsewhere. And you get this bill and you think, holy cow, this is a substantial amount of money per day. But I guess we have to pay it. So we then would be on the billing portion of that, and there would be, administrative fees. In looking at, we have to first file paperwork to get a school approved. It would be part of the Caledonia Public School District per statute. The school district where the detention center resides is responsible for providing the education. So if this is approved by the board, then we would then be responsible, and we're not jumping up and down about it, having other work to do, but that's the way it is, and we would be happy to do that. So like the costs would then be passed on to the districts where those students reside. So if they come from Plainview, Elgin Millville School District, we would send a bill to them for the amount that they would cost per day. And we would have to figure out a per day cost for that. And I don't know if there's 4 kids that week, that you take the cost of the week and split it up with those 4 school districts. Or if you try and find some average and figure that out. I would imagine, based on the bills that we get from other districts, that the costs are inflated to make sure that the local school district doesn't incur any costs. And I think everybody would agree it's not fair for the ISD 299 taxpayers to bear any of that cost. So we would pass those costs on to the district where those students reside. I don't know if I answered, if there was a question that was asked, or if I just rambled for a while, but
Have you run this by your board, school board?
we've been in contact with them, and I've been dishing them out information on a weekly basis of here's the latest update, and basically what I've just shared with you is what I've shared with them.
So do you gonna have to take on additional staff, or you got teachers available, or?
We would have to take on additional staff. According to Carver County or the South Washington schools, they hire a person to work full-time. They actually have 2 people that work full-time, but do they have 16 beds?
I can't, I don't believe so. I can't tell you what number they have.
Yeah. We were thinking we would be able to have 1 person in charge of up to 8 kids for up to 8 days. It's going to be hard to provide that education, as everybody could imagine. You only have them for a short time. We have something called Edgenuity that is a computer-based program. It'd be nice to get something from the school, and if they were people from the area, I would, if we were sending someone to Carver County, I would appreciate a phone call from them. What do you want us to work with this kid on? Go from there. So, much like if a kid goes on vacation for a week and they get their work ahead of time, we sometimes do that, where the kids will do their work ahead of time, be similar with what could we work on with the child. If we don't get anything, we would just plug in, some 9th grade material for that week. In my mind, I'm thinking it's probably not gonna be a superior educational opportunity, and in all likelihood, there will be some mental health needs that the kids have, and things that a teacher would probably need to work on with those kids in addition to reading, writing, and arithmetic, so to speak.
Sounds challenging.
Yes, that's what I said. I wasn't really jumping up and down for joy about the opportunity, but I do understand the need, and like I said, we've had students that have been in other facilities and had occasional bills from time to time, and I understand the need.
So this will be in person teaching?
Yes, the Edgenuity portion is an online tutorial where the kids have lessons. But then there would be that adult there to assist and help where needed.
You bill every county, wherever the kid's from, that county. you send
Actually
them-
build the school district where the child resides.
So would the school district 299 bill the other districts, or are you billing the county and the county bills?
My understanding is the school district bills the other schools, and that's based on receiving bills from Bemidji School District, for example, that we've had students incarcerated there, and the Bemidji School District sends us the bill.
So the contract that you'll have with the county. What's that gonna cover? I mean, the cost of your hiring somebody, or?
It sounds like in our preliminary research that there needs to be a joint powers agreement between the school district and the county for the detention center. And we have yet to find an example of that. I did find one that I sent you that I don't think was really relevant. Did you get a chance to look at that one?
I don't believe I did.
Yeah, okay. But I would imagine we could get one from Carver County, see what they had in place and copy that, so to speak.
Both Carver and Washington, to my knowledge, the counties aren't paying school districts anything. But we haven't seen their joint powers or any type of contract to see what exactly says. So I'm assuming the school district can bill back the other school districts, but I'm not gonna say 100% positive.
So in the case of Houston County, we've got the school districts that we have in the county. If we have a juvenile that's going to be in the 8-day facility in Caledonia, District 299 would bill Houston County, or does the state subsidize any of this?
My understanding is that our school district would bill, if we had a student that resides in the Crescent School District that's being held, Caledonia School District would bill the La Crescent School District directly for the cost of the education during the stay.
But if there's a Caledonia juvenile in the facility, you bill Houston County?
No.
Or you
You'd have to bill yourself.
bill
Correct.
yourself?
Right.
And the state covers that for you?
No,
Or how is that?
the state would provide the allotted money for the student, your resident student. I believe for a year, it's $7,200 some per child, so you would get that. We would get that 7,000 whatever, and it would definitely, it does definitely cost more when a child is in a facility. And there's no additional funding for that.
So Houston County would reimburse Caledonia School District and no other school district.
I don't believe the county would reimburse Caledonia School District if it was a Caledonia resident student.
Be just part of the educational process to hire you
Correct.
the staff person.
Yes, I have a question, Sam, from his experience dealing with other county attorneys and in judicial areas. there's a need for this type of facility?
Yeah. I'd say, yeah, I'll answer that question, Commissioner Severson, but I would kind of want to give a little bit of background here. Is that I did receive an email from Brian, Sheriff Swedberg about this issue, and what I indicated to him is that the sheriff's office and the school are sort of at the back end of this, if you will. Typically, what always would happen, because the county attorney's office by statute, Minnesota has a jurisdiction to prosecute juvenile matters, is that it would come to our attention like a normal crime would. And then we have to make an argument to the court within so many hours for the child to be placed. So I thought it was a natural thing to reach out to the county attorneys. I initially reached out to the 3rd Judicial District, and depending what the board does here today, I can reach out statewide on a call that the County Attorney Association has throughout all 87 counties. Attorneys usually participate on Wednesday morning. But we are the driving factor as far as asking the court, and the court obviously has to make the final decision regarding the statutory criteria this child should be held. Oftentimes, I would say, and I hesitate to give you percentages here, but it is very common that whatever traumatic event occurs in the home, typically it's a home, or it could be something else, and use that as an example. Say it happens on a Friday, domestic assault or something. And because mom and dad are out of home, they're not around, or some factors would be that the child is held until Monday. And then Monday, things can be organized for the child to be released from the facility. A lot of times that happens. Seeing children there more than 8 days is not a lot from what I'm seeing. There are certainly children that do that. But it always are full because there's always children coming in. I did reach out to Goodhue County, and these are emails I received yesterday, and I'll just from the county attorney themselves. In Goodhue County, we have an interest in placing juveniles there. We simply do not have many options for when placement is needed, either upon arrest or sentencing recommendation. Wabasha County would be supportive of this conversion. Your facility would likely be our first call in seeking juvenile placement. Winona, please tell your board that the Winona County Attorney is very much in support of this. It's something I have been personally working towards for years. I'm very glad the Houston County Sheriff is taking the initiative on this. Mower County, we are absolutely in favor, and I'm sure we could use it on a regular basis. Anything we can do to help, just ask. Fillmore County, this is a fantastic idea. We could also use it on a very regular basis. Any assistance we could help. Rice County is interested. We have at least one insecure detention almost every day this week. And historically, I know this has been talked about since I started practicing here in 2004. Either a group home or some sort of same or similar type facility has been talked about for years. The uptick of this, and the problem is when certain facilities that are locally, Homestead County, I think off the top of my head, they close. And so there is an absolute need for this. And that's what, and we kind of touched on a couple of things as far as, and I have talked to some of the county attorneys, and we run into this when we do placement. And frankly, this is one of the most crisis things that we do is that as soon as a juvenile is in custody, I'm on the phone with Human Services, or we have a protocol, the jail. And certainly we're looking at the charges, but what happens if the juvenile's held? We have 6 hours once the judge issues that order to get the juvenile out of our facility. What can we do? Where do we go? Those are the real crisis things that we deal with, is finding an appropriate place for this juvenile. And having been through that process a number of times, is that whatever facility that's an 8-day facility that we're looking at, maybe they have the capacity for 30 persons, and you call there and we only have 28 there. Well, that's great. We could, no. Other counties will permanently book those spots. They'll book a spot because they have, like in this case, I can't speak for Rice County, but that would be one. Our county probably be one. Winona County, I know I've had discussions with their county attorney. They have thought about it, where they would book a spot. Because they have it on such a frequent basis that they have a need for that. And certainly that would be something that would be in contract discussions. But it's not unusual to see that, especially these larger counties, when they have a spot that's just pre-booked because they have the need so much. And I can answer any question.
So of all the counties that you listed there,
Yes,
why haven't one of those counties opened up an 8-day juvenile center? The Wabasha is a fairly new jail. Very low population. They actually thought about closing their jail at one time too. Winona County just built a new facility. Why didn't they combine juvenile in with that? Fillmore County's building a new jail facility. Why didn't they incorporate? I mean, geographically, they'd be a better position for, I mean, we're down here in the southeast part of the state. Geographically, it'd be better to have it more in the center of the southeast region.
and I can only tell you what I know anecdotally on that, and some is from seeing in the paper. There was discussion in Winona County when they were building their jail, and there was a push against it. And I think from the community not to do it. And so that was done away with. I'd spoken directly about the county attorney over there. She was supporting it, and it's reflected in her email. The other counties, I think it's the, if you're gonna do it just for the one or two people that see some of these smaller counties like Fillmore or Wabasha, that's why they didn't do it. I also think, just again, as anecdotally, it's the cost of creating a facility. We just sort of have a situation here that would allow this to occur. There's so much, as you know, in building a new facility and meeting requirements. We just happen to have a facility that DOC meets requirements. But it's a need that's been known forever. And it's just, we just had the opportunity, and the sheriff started exploring it. And I think when it was explored in other places, there was some reason there was a stopping point, but at this point here, it seems to be, at least at this point, we have the opportunity to at least move forward and continue discussions on it.
The whole purpose is for the needs of the kids. Granted, it costs the county a lot of money. I mean, I know Fillmore County's got one that they've got that costs them $1,000 a day. They're at a facility here. They'd save quite a bit of money while they're getting things arranged. That was just in conversation with somebody from Fillmore, but it's the needs of the kids. That's the important factor here as far as something in that regard. So the question I've got is, as far as the $250 or $300 a day and a joint powers agreement with the school, could the joint powers agreement and the fees that we charge, could we reimburse the school fixed amount to help cover some of the cost of hiring an extra staff and whatnot through this process, so that the school isn't getting hurt on the deal and everybody that's participating, including the counties, is covering part of the cost as far as what, the school's got to provide?
Absolutely. I think it's possible. We just got to get it all worked out. Like Carver County, they only hold 6 juveniles. They're allowed for, and the school district doesn't bill the county anything. So
right,
we just got to figure out how they're doing it and basically mimic the same way.
I just don't think it'd be fair for the school district to have to increase its levy to cover this for not only Houston County juveniles, but surrounding county juveniles. We should have some kind of an agreement that
Absolutely.
keeps the school whole.
Absolutely.
I can see what you're saying, Bob, but I believe it was covered, as the superintendent indicated, they bill back to the home school district to cover their cost plus is, so it's Commissioner Burns' concern issue to you or to the school district, you think?
I guess the short answer is I'm not sure. There are a lot of costs, like the earn safe and sick time stuff. If we hire an individual and they have 12 12 weeks of earned safe and sick time that they utilize. Now we've got to hire a substitute, in addition to paying that person for their paid leaves. So there are a lot of unknowns that are just unforeseeable. So the billing portion is going to be very difficult to figure out. And like I said, when we've received bills from other school districts that are providing the education for students that are our students, you just kind of shake your head and think, how could it cost this much? But now I understand.
Chuck,
Okay. Well, with that. Ooh, yeah, really? I would be doing. I wouldn't have any money. But this is really.
we'll see, that's some of the details we need to have. I mean, we don't have a lot of concrete details of what this is gonna look like, but yet we're supposed to make a decision if we're gonna do this. I mean, it's been said here at meetings that we need to gather information, you had to gather information. Well, okay. We need the information to make a decision, but we don't have no information except for what we're being told. I mean, there's nothing in writing, you know? I mean, Craig's trying to say that, Mr. Erkey, I should say, is trying to, you know, he doesn't know a lot of things, what this is gonna be, you know, and how this is gonna look.
Correct. Like I said before, it's new to everybody. So none of us know what it's gonna look. We're going down the road and doing our best. If we're worried about money, and the county attorney basically stated that we're assuming we'll have enough juveniles here, plenty of juveniles here.
And I would tell you in that fact, I had just a couple days heads up on the email to send out. But I know my office could, and I know these other offices, they could provide numbers of what's going out the door as far as to juveniles. I mean, they can just do it. I just didn't have time to deal with it. They didn't have time to deal with it, but I could provide the number of juveniles replaced. That's not an issue, and I would assume they would have a cost as well.
Based on what you read from other county attorneys in southeast Minnesota. If we agree to an 8-day bed, an 8-day juvenile facility with 8 beds, we might be short beds.
I think that's if what I'm experiencing on a day-to-day basis, when we have to reach out, that's what I'm thinking would be that the possibility of all the possible outcomes would be is that we'll fill up very quickly. And
Even if it's they've contracted for the bed, whether they have a child in there or not, it's available to them anytime, any day.
yeah, and it'd be like a retainer. And as far as who would pay who to answer that, we're both public agencies. And so that's some ways it can be a simple question, but it also can be a complex one as far as how you can bill and who you can bill, because as I was talking with the superintendent is that they have certain funds that they can spend money on and they have certain contracts and that, and it's something that will have to be discussed. But again, I think it's something that can be figured out.
So you're thinking that most of these counties are gonna contract out 365, hold that spot. Why wouldn't they just pay for the $300 a day for 8 days? And go that route and have a short-term
my guess would be is, I think. I can only tell, I spoke for a couple of them, and obviously they have to go back to organizations just like yourselves.
Well, they'd have to go to their board.
Board as well.
I mean, all these county boards gonna sign these $90,000 contracts when they could just do $2,400 for 8 days?
I would suggest is that, you know, that's a discussion that they would have to have, obviously, but once you see the numbers on it, because it's just not. The cost of the bed, it's the cost of all the transport involved, the overtime for the deputies, not having a deputy around. It has to be a transport person. Also, when I've had some discussions is that if you're in Winona or wherever, you want to go the shortest distance, just for gas, whatever, but also liability. You have a juvenile in a vehicle that you're driving, it could be a traffic accident or whatever. Whatever you can do to make this at least time on the road is always a factor that goes into this. So I don't know. I mean, those are questions for those boards, but I would suggest that their populations are so much larger that they're dealing with this. And our juvenile population is very small, that we're seeing it gets to the point that we're considering a placement on a yearly basis. But yet it's significant enough that I know it's a problem. We have a protocol, whereas if it's a larger county, they must be dealing with like the county attorney in Rice County on a daily basis. I would just, and I know there were 3 or 4 different county attorneys that didn't respond because they were in trial or they were on vacation. And that's why I want to reach out to all the county attorneys tomorrow. But I suspect, and I just reached out in the local districts, but that doesn't mean that ones that are not in our judicial district, but are just outside of it, it's closer to us than it would be to Bemidji. And so, which is one of the places that you start to see carbon, whatever the case may be, that I would suspect that even though it would be outside of our judicial district, that we have other counties interested in as well.
I think one of the questions that Eric brought up was, you know, why would they contract? They want that reservation, because was indicated Rice County, it's an ongoing situation. There are some of these lesser needs may not do the 365 payment, but it's there's definitely a need, and it's becoming more obvious as I was going through the documents and going through this process over the weeks that we've been talking about this. You know, we have a facility over there that, and the discussion has been, it was overbuilt years ago and it's not being utilized. This is an opportunity to utilize it with some income. Also, the school district has been involved, and they see the payment part because been receiving bills from other school districts, and they say, "Oh, smokes, you know, it's not going to be a moneymaker." I understand that, but at least it looks like you can cover your costs. Perhaps there's a lot of things. The fine tuning needs to be done. I understand that, but I think we're looking at, are we going to go with it or not go with it? It's kind of where we're at. But there's things to be tweaked out. But if it doesn't work, I guess I'll have to ask the DOC person. I mean, if down the road here 6 weeks and we get into the fine tuning and say, "Oh, timeout, this wasn't brought to us back in April. Maybe this is when we go back." But I think it's a need. There's an opportunity to keep our facility open. It's an opportunity to keep our employees going and expand perhaps.
So it's 91,000 to contract a room, 1 bed for 1 year, correct?
Correct.
So what is the cost for all your maintenance and everything to operate that 1 bed?
I didn't calculate that number at all.
Do you remember on the budget? The jail facility cost was 1.7 million. Doesn't matter if we're having 1 juvenile in the facility or if we're having 8 juveniles in the facility. For 1.7, that's the jailers, the dispatcher, everything that's associated in the jail. The discussion was, should we keep the jail open at all? Or should we close? We have a jail with a 41 bed facility that has the option to go to 81, that we can double up most of the cell. The juvenile thing was something that came up because we have space that's not utilized, that we can provide for the needs of the juveniles in southeast Minnesota to help us have a place for them temporarily while they're getting things squared away or while they're coming back, and help defer some of that 1.7 million. The 1.7 million doesn't go away.
It's there.
We got that. So we can close the jail and save that, or do this and cover. What was it we had with the Winona County contract? That was about 500,000 a year that we got.
300.
300,000.
I mean, so it's quite a bit less and a lot less inmates.
Yeah.
So there's no additional costs.
There's a little bit of additional cost as far as some of the.
What are
training.
those? What are those? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Right now, additional costs would be a little bit of training,
In-house.
in-house training. Oh, the food for the kids, sure. I mean, every inmate's name incur the cost for the food. Any type like I had to apply to the DHS, I believe that's a $500 fee for their application, these application fees. But they're not gonna add up to a lot, realistically, in the whole scheme of things. Right now with our juveniles, I mean, when we get a juvenile from court saying place them, we're calling 6-8 places and we're scrambling. And I know like money is always money, it's always a big thing, but you look at the kids too. Is it right for them to drive 6-8 hours away and then come back 6-8 hours? I mean, that's not good for the kids realistically either. I know they did wrong, but being in a car for transport vehicle for that long, just because you don't want to save a couple dollars.
You aren't saving anything if we're shipping them 6-8 hours,
No.
bringing them back. And yeah, there's some small costs associated with doing this, because we're already paying the maintenance costs and everything else. But it's still for the benefit of the kids in our area. And it's not a long-term fix, it's a short-term fix, and it gives you time. You don't have to scramble as much to find a place to put them. And there is a place to have the kids housed while they're awaiting, if it's a dental appointment or whatever.
So the staffing that we have now is sufficient to do this.
Once we get the hire, because we're down one, of course. And I also discussed before about the halftime that went away last year.
So we'd have to hire a time and a half. One and a half
Correct.
positions.
That's what I'd like, because it's the halftime position we took away from last year. Has not been good for, we needed that full-time position.
What you're saying is you need to go back to full staff.
Correct. See, prior to Winona contract, staffing wise, we're less than what we were prior to Winona contract.
Well, we didn't replace because the loan contract was going away. Right? In order to, we figured that in for the budgeting part of it, right? The 1.7 million is in the is what the staff that we have now.
Correct.
So if we add staff, we're talking that 1.7 is gonna go up to more than.
We did add a half position back. We're not budgeted right this current year. We're adding that half position back.
You're budgeted for the full-time position, but not the half.
Correct.
Question with regard to the full-time. Because you have to have a female, if there's female juveniles. Can you advertise, I know Tess is gonna raise her head about this. Can you advertise for a jail administrator / female? Or do you have to just make it an open-ended?
Why would you do that?
Because you need a female jailer.
They can't do jailer duties. Jail administrator cannot do.
I'm not even talking administrator, I'm talking jailer.
You said jailer administrator. didn't you? Or maybe
Well, I misspoke. Just a jailer.
Oh,
Can you advertise for a female to fulfill the need if you have a female juvenile? That's a standing up, I know I'm gonna catch that.
The answer to that question is yes. If you have a bona fide occupational requirement, BFOQ, bona fide occupational qualification that you are required to have, and we have done this in the past. And that is the only time. So we have statutory requirements that require that we have a female on duty, then we have what they call a BFOQ, bona fide occupational qualification.
We could advertise it that way. To have
And
a
have to
female.
look to make sure that our staffing levels are where they are, but yes. We have,
Female can be a jailer for the male population as well as the female population adult. But then we'd have one to cover female juvenile,
question is, we need one on the ship.
one per ship. Do you have any female jailers now?
We have. Oh, you can put me on spot, 3 or 4.
Okay, so probably really wouldn't have to hire another female,
It'd be nice, let's put it that way.
but we wouldn't have to. You've got 3 now.
To have the 24/7 coverage, yes, we'd have that. I believe we'd have that new applicant as a female. But I can't, I don't have the numbers either.
That's
More inmates are, male or female in
You'd
jail.
have to verify what you need. As far as the cost is concerned, yeah, we gotta add the cost for a half-time person. There's some cost for training, there's some cost as far as the school is concerned. I think it would only be fair to keep the school open myself. But if we book the 8 beds 50% of the year, it's gonna more than cover what we're talking about as far as these additional costs. And we're utilizing a facility that's right now got 2 or 3 prisoners. That was brought this whole conversation up, as we got an empty jail.
Well, that's the main reason why we're doing this.
No. We have, the main reason is we've got the space, there is a definite need. It's for the benefit of the residents of Southeast Minnesota, the juveniles of Southeast Minnesota, so that they aren't stuck with all this long-term traffic, they aren't stuck with having to be sent so far away, at least initially.
Then you throw the liability aspect. You put your deputies at liability, you put the juveniles at a liability. You talk about the post-traumatic type of stress when the adults are handcuffed with different things. It's worse with juveniles where they have, this what's that term, Brian? The instant death or the death that they have to transport. We've had different trainings on it. There's more trainings that we've had to take on it. The liability area is huge in my book on this. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years. I worked for the sheriff's office for 13 years. I've had to sit outside that Sally Port in our brand new jail with a juvenile because I couldn't even bring it into the Sally Port for 45 minutes so they could call a deputy and have that deputy go to somewhere north of the Twin Cities. The whole time that juvenile's in there screaming, kicking, crying, etc. Boy, sure would have been nice for that local juvenile to have been able to go in there and get used. As far as the other counties out there, the information Sam got, I've known that forever. I've heard that. The need is there. Whether or not we do it or not is a big question we got. Yep, there's going to be some expenses. There's going to be some additional trainings, but the staffing is there. And it is only the half a position. Bob did some very good points there that I agree with as well. And Dewey.
I think I had a conversation with a commissioner from Wabash County at one of the meetings we're both on, and he says, when are you gonna get it? He's a board member that feels there's a need, and apparently, I don't know if it's county attorney or sheriff that, put the bug in his ear, but he says, I hear you guys are thinking about it. Or in the planning stages. So, I think we do have a lot of information. I think we have enough information to make the initial investment, get started. There's a need. And I feel that we should move forward. So I make a motion that we approve the 8-day juvenile detention facility as presented.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
That is with taking into consideration, and it's not in your motion, but it should be in consideration as far as an agreement between the school and the county sheriff's office or the county board. And arrangements as far as that's concerned, and Sam's input as far as how this is gonna be put together and the financial aspect of it is concerned.
Well, that, as you said, that wasn't in Dewey's motion that we're just gonna move forward with this 8J juvenile detention center, so.
Right.
Now you're adding a caveat.
I'm just
to
saying
all
that that's that's gotta be
Part of
part of what we're doing.
It'll be part of it as we finalize the document.
You agree with that with your motion? Bruce?
Yes,
I'll agree with it, mine. Second.
So
So what is the motion exactly?
motion is made and seconded that we go forward with the process of 8J and the agreement between the school district and the sheriff's department be final.
As well as the determination of the fees that are gonna be associated.
We hope we ought to get to the B part, because that's
We
not
gotta know where we're gonna be at
for us or for the school district.
for the juvenile bed, per bed.
Oh,
Not the school, but with the school agreement, what the per bed costs, you're talking $300. Any justification of it. Or whatever the dollar.
we're in the discussion phase here, so.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing here is a lot of questions. There's a lot, I mean, we don't have any numbers, we don't have any documentation. I mean, you've said that you've seen documentation. I haven't seen anything. There was nothing in the packet. And I get what Commissioner Schultz was saying and what Bob's saying. I understand the need. But there's a reason, and my gut is telling me there's a reason why this isn't being done by other counties. Why haven't nobody else picked up the ball to do this? Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns out there. There's the liability of housing juveniles. The training for the staff, is that gonna change their banding? Is that gonna increase their pay to house juveniles because they're training, they have to have more responsibility? We don't know any of this stuff. So I can't make a decision on this little bit of information that we've received.
the discussion is, we have more room than most any other jail around facility.
And why is that, Sam?
What,
Why do we have more room than any other jail in the county?
we're built.
I think I've discussed this a number of times, either in person at these meetings or individually, but a number of different factors. One is the crimes that are committed in this county. Many of those are no longer mandatory minimums. DUI practices where they were mandatory incarceration, now it's there's no mandatory incarceration if you have an ignition interlock device on a vehicle. Also, it's my understanding from conversations that I have been in or around is that there is just generally a push not to incarcerate people, not only in our state, but nationwide, is that the incarceration is a lesser, it's just a lesser importance to the persons that are involved in the judicial system as far as placing them in jail. I think there's an understanding that when persons have mental health needs, the jails are not the place to put them in. When they have addiction needs, jails are not necessarily the best place to provide those services. And so it's my understanding is that the sheriff in past has reached out to other county Department of Corrections, as far as like Commissioner of Corrections for prisons, about taking people in, and the information that he's received back is that they're trying to reduce bed, not they don't have the need, they're trying to have lesser people in the facility. So I think it's more of a societal correction as far as what we used to do when the jail was authorized. I think it was 2008, but that was 10 or 15 years of planning, if not more, prior to that. That model is not used today. And whatever your opinion on that, certainly you can have that. But I think that's just the reality, trying to answer your question, Mr. Johnson, so the prison that we looked at, incarceration. Certainly in 2008 is different than what's looked at.
The other thing too is, yeah, the question is, why hasn't anybody else done it? Well, none of the other sheriffs in the southeast, and they took the initiative as Sheriff Sweatberg's done. I mean, this is something that showed up. He said, let's try it. Let's look at it. He's found a lot of information. He's gone through the DOC booklet. He's gone with Carver County's booklet, got, I think, information from them. It's something new, and as even commented, even the DOC people up in St. Paul are having, they said, well, we don't do this every day. But they're willing to work with us, and perhaps something will come up. Maybe there will be a hiccup. But if we don't do anything, what we're gonna do, sending our deputies all the way to who knows where to take care of them, and as was indicated by the notes from county attorney, is that there are people who are eager and willing to help pay for this. I think that for the betterment of the community, you know, sometimes it'd be nice, we didn't need law enforcement.
Yeah.
Huh?
And also the point about why the other counties done this, I mean, we haven't, right now, we're in a deal spot. We have a very large new jail. We don't have the population of adult inmates. If we had an adult inmates population, we wouldn't be down this road. And that's, I'm assuming some of the counties like that. They have enough adult inmates. They don't need to look elsewhere, or the facility isn't made for it, so they can't do anything. I think we're just in a deal spot to have this opportunity.
And fix the problem.
Correct.
Can you reread what the official?
I'm still not sure. I think it's approve the Houston County Jail adding an 8-day juvenile detention center to the facility, including an agreement between the county and school district. And then, was there something else also to add to that, Bob?
I think the school district put it in the jail.
The cost, you know, what the cost per bed determination is gonna be. I mean, we have to have the,
So including numbers for cost per bed.
Should we have those numbers before we make a decision? I mean, that's what I'm getting at here. We were asking, there's nothing in the packet.
What numbers
There's
do
no
you want to
document,
get?
there's no documentation, there's nothing in the packet about any numbers, the contract between the school and the county, nothing. I mean, not that it's your guys' fault. You're still going through the process, but why are we gonna vote to do this without knowing what the exact details of in the contract? I'd like to see what DOC's words or the email that you said they shared with just Sheriff Sweatberg last night. I mean, those are things I'd like to see before I could make a decision.
Mr. Johnson.
And that's just me, but I mean, I can't make a decision without this very lack of information.
Well, we do the 8-day facility, and I hear, I know his new jail is getting full. And so can we take on other people from Winona again if they wanted us to?
That is, we haven't been approached about that.
And also, the school district is responsible for giving education. And it's kind of nice for them also, since they realistically can't get their part going till after school year ends. So we have the summertime to see what's going on. Prepare for it.
So when, after this gets approved today, how long before we start becoming a detention juvenile?
I can give you a guess. No one's done this before, so I can't give you an actual date. When I ask DOC, they can't say, I don't know. They can tell me, I don't know. We've never done this before. So we hope to be done before into next month. But no one's been down this road, so I can't tell you what kind of hiccups we'd come across.
Right, and from a school standpoint, we cannot start the educational process until we are approved to become a school, which we have to apply for a license. And I was just looking, I started filling out the application in anticipation that we might have a school that we have to provide. It has to be a separate school, much like the elementary is a separate school from middle school, high school. So for financial and code reasons, the elementary is coded as 029901. Middle school, high school is coded as 029902. This would then be 029903. But in the process of filling that out, about the third question in, what is the name of the juvenile detention facility? And I skipped that, went over, and then there was about 5 or 6 other questions that it's not the school's place to answer what the name of the facility is. I can do, I can do the address of the facility. So there are a bunch of things. So even if this gets approved, I'm told that it's at least 6 weeks before the Minnesota Department of Education will grant you a new school. So whenever this gets approved, you can add 6 weeks on it for the educational portion. And that's probably, knowing the Minnesota Department of Education, that's probably a optimistic 6 weeks.
And then you have to hire someone yet to.
Correct.
I see this as a condition precedent to just moving forward, as to tag on to Commissioner Burns' motion there. The way I understand that is that there's a permission to move forward with the discussion and the conversion. But the condition is ascertaining the financial responsibilities of each party that's involved, which ultimately this board would be signing off on. And to keep going with that is if this board did not thought it was an undue burden on this school to provide the educational piece to this, and you wouldn't agree to it, then that stops. That there's a lot of things that have to be coming back to you, where you'll have input after this. And again, I think there's a number just built in stopping points here because of the unknowns. We've done this, now we need this and that. Do we go left? Do we go right? The decisions of whether we go left or we go right, to use my example, will be up to the board.
So you'll be calling stopping positions that after this agreement, if we go through. But as we go through and see the things that are needed by Department of Education, you'll see, oh, that wasn't there, that could be a stop.
Well, I can anticipate the sheriff coming back and saying that, we thought about this, about the staffing, but it's this, and then what I brought you previously as far as the proposed numbers or my thoughts that I shared at this meeting on April 24th, 23rd, that's changed. And so I think this is an ongoing process. It evolves. Again, as Commissioner Johnson indicated, we get numbers, but there is a need. It's just that we have to keep moving forward to see if what we think we have the ability to fulfill this need. But again, it's going to take working through, as the superintendent indicated, to see if that actually is possible. And this is just one of many steps to see if we can get over the finish line and create this facility. Maybe not in the end, but this board does not want to improve something. That very well could get stopped.
But we are approving it today.
My understanding is what you're approving is the conversion for that, and you are approving that. But that's contingent on the DOC, as you've indicated. The school, the Department of Education here.
Human Services. Human Services.
Human
also.
Services. Just off the top of my head, let alone the school board's attorneys, my office coming to an agreement as far as the financial responsibility, the payback, and what the cost may or may not be. There are a lot of moving parts here. This board would have to sign off on and agree.
So this more or less is an agreement or a motion to move forward, more or less. And we can stop it if there's any kind of a hiccup or.
We don't get the right if the financial aspect of it comes out way worse than what we're talking about. If the school and the county sheriff's office cannot get an arrangement put together, then we're gonna have to put it.
Right, it's kind of like saying if school can't find a teacher to fill his position. I mean, it kind of,
You won't sign off on it.
we're kind of stuck nowhere. It's kind of like finding jailers. We don't have jailers, we can't have jail. But we're at a point where that we're looking at starting applications, so. That's where we need to start moving forward and get the board's approval.
And I might not have the right understanding, but my understanding is if a JDC is established, the school has no choice. They have a statutory obligation to provide that education. If we can't find a science teacher, we still provide science. We had a dentist teaching science this year.
That puts you guys in a predicament. I mean, are you, like, the school board, aren't they gonna have to finalize this to prove this? Or is this something that you can do? on your own?
If the juvenile detention center happens, we are statutorily obligated to provide education for residents of the juvenile detention center because it resides within our school district.
That's why I mentioned that we need the joint powers agreement between the school and the county in order to move forward.
And I don't, it's gonna be a lot of work. I'm reminded of the time that I worked in the summer for an appliance repair shop. My first day on the job, the guy handed me a vacuum cleaner and he said, fix it. I said, I don't know how. He said, figure it out. And that's what I did.
Well, basically, that's what we're doing.
Right.
We're proving to do it, figure it out.
Yep.
So it's not gonna come back. I mean, we're approving it, we're gonna figure it out, we're gonna go forward. Right? Is that what,
I agree.
so all this talk about where, you know, Sam brought up, we can come back because something's different or not, that's not gonna really happen.
I still, and I would push back now, I think there's going to be contractual things that will come up. That you will have chance to have input.
Well, motion's been made and seconded. We'll do a roll call. If there's any more discussion. You want to read the motion there, Allison, please?
Approve the Houston County Jail adding an 8-day juvenile detention center to the facility. Contingent on an agreement between the county and the school, including numbers. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
No.
District 3.
I'm gonna vote yes on the basis that we've talked about this quite a while. We gotta move forward. And in my opinion, it's still for the betterment of the juvenile county and in southeast. Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Would there be a possibility of naming the facility so I can get going on the applications?
I guess the Houston County 8-day, 8-day juvenile holding facility.
That's kind of long.
People can use acronyms, of course, as everybody does.
Juvenile Center, Houston County.
Please kind of,
Juvenile Center, Houston County.
sure, Houston County Juvenile Center.
Yep.
Sure.
There you go.
That's what I had typed in there.
Okay.
But I just didn't want to make that decision unilaterally.
Thank you again.
Yep.
Thank you.
On to action item number 2, consider approving the MOA. Law Enforcement Labor Services Local number 60 regarding the appointment of interim jail administrator.
Commissioners,
This is the one that came Friday afternoon, correct?
yes, it's the same one we actually been talking about with the union for a better part of 3 weeks, I believe.
Yep.
And they have had an opportunity to go through their processes and they have signed it on the 19th. And now it's in front of the board for your consideration. This is for the agreement with the employer and LALS Unit Number 60 regarding the appointment of the interim jail administrator. And what it does is it provides for the individual to retain her rights upon returning to her unit. Although the position resides within the MAPE agreement, but when she returns, she gets the benefit of all of her accruals. She gets the benefit of any step she may have otherwise received. And
So this wasn't in the packet, but it was in an email that you sent.
no, I thought it was in the packet. My
Yeah.
apologies.
Friday afternoon. She asked.
Oh, that's correct. It came after the initial packet went out. So it was when I included it in my request for an agenda amendment.
Is this not in part associated to item number 3 in the consent agenda?
This was the finalizer.
Since we approved the consent agenda, my agenda item number 3, I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement with local number 60 regarding the appointment of an interim jail administrator.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you, commissioners. Greatly appreciated.
Action item number 3, consider reviewing and approving payments. You've all seen the list of payments that are need to be approved.
Sure.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Board updates. I have nothing to update. I haven't had any recent meetings, so. We could start with Dewey, you got something?
Last Wednesday, Parks Committee met down at Wildcat going through getting things set up. Looked at the facility there on the bathroom building, and there were some hairline cracks, and at that point we looked into it, and Crest Precast out of La Crescent is gonna warranty it and repair it. All we may need to do as far as county level is paint it after they patch and do the stuff, but it's concrete does two things, gets hard and breaks. But it's going on that, and then we talked about, we'd walked it through, gonna get some rock in some of the campsites just to get it ready for the season coming up next. And then that's about it. We've had some other discussions in the personnel committee.
Bob. Where's?
2 different meetings, had a department head meeting the other day with Bob. Member Schultz. And nothing dramatic as far as the departments are concerned. Brian did talk about Wildcat, like Dewey mentioned. Eric from the surveyor's office are working over by B and getting there almost done with section 33 and then moving on. And he's got multiple projects. As far as that's concerned in the IT service contracts agreements, there was a conversation as far as that is concerned with IT, and Carol they were talking with regard to like our service contract agreements now have to be on a schedule. So you show the monthly cost instead of an annual cost because they treat it like it's a capital item. So a little more work added to what the finance officer has to do to keep track of this stuff. Carol talked about the fact that we're starting work on the audit. The auditors have been down to get initial information. She is still waiting for the 1922 audit excuse me, 2022 final audit
You waited a
information.
long time for 1920.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I misspoke there a little bit. A decade or two off, but there was, they were in a hurry for us to get our information to them, but it doesn't work the same in reverse. Mary talked with regard to the recorder's office that she also is in preparation for the audit and talked about different transfers and splits that typically is increasing in the spring like it always does every year. Tess talked about negotiations, and then we had finance this morning. Health and Human Services, busy time there again, same conversation, audit. Carol talked about audit. And then we're still waiting for answers. We can transfer the historic jail for $1, but we don't know for sure what we can do about the $730,000 insurance money that we have. If that can be transferred or not, that's a question that's at the auditor's office and still waiting for an answer. That's all I got.
Commissioner Schultz.
The only meeting I had was the one with Bob there and the department head, and he did a very good job of something that I need to add. I did stop down the Wildcat twice in the last 2 weeks, and Justin and his partner are really working hard on this. So things are shaping up, and I did hear they're anticipating having the water turned on this weekend and allowing people to move in. That'll be good.
Didn't know tomorrow. The water's good.
Yeah, they're bleaching and flushing the line probably. That's all I know.
Greg.
Yeah, Wildcat. We had that. Dewey pretty much covered that for me. We got an airport meeting this afternoon at 1:30. It was approached me by a guy. He wants to know why we aren't using our courtroom anymore because COVID's over with. So why aren't we using our courtroom? We got a beautiful courtroom. Why aren't we using it?
People have the option to request a jury trial.
Yep.
Or do it online. So people don't request a jury trial. They can still have it in front of the judge if they want to, but if the defense attorneys and whatnot agree to do it online, and they don't have to travel down, it's a cost-saving measure for some of them. It's an individual's choice.
Well, we have a judge that we're paying pretty good money since he's elected and everything else. I don't know what would be wrong with driving down here and holding our own court like a normal county. When the owner's jail is filling up.
We don't.
Okay. That just happened. I mean, I'm just saying, what can we do? I mean, we got a beautiful place sitting over there, collecting dust and going to waste, and we're cleaning it, spending money on it. I mean, why aren't we using it? I mean, there's gotta be something that we can say, you gotta use our court. Otherwise, why did we build it?
Well, it's a district judge thing, but I agree, but.
Just
You're saying that they're
People have the choice.
the people that are being charged are requesting Zoom. It's not the judge.
The judge can order it to go to the court. But if the defense attorneys and whatnot request it on Zoom, and it's the type of case that you can do on Zoom, I mean, certain cases you have to take into the court. But if people request to do it by Zoom, that's what they do. And then I watched, Greg, you watched the Zoom deal, and it's my choice.
I'd like to know what Winona's ruling is up there. How do they handle it? I mean, do they do Zoom everyone, or is theirs actually held in a courtroom like normal court?
Each one is different.
Yeah, we'll do both up there the last I heard.
There's some that do it that don't no longer do Zoom, and then there's the one we have that does everything fast.
Almost.
Almost, except for what, jury trial, you said?
Jury trial. There are some trials that's before. the person being charged can request their case be heard in front of the judge in person. Then the judge can do that. Their request to be by Zoom, the judge can say yes or no to the Zoom. If they request a jury trial, of course, it has to be in the courthouse because first you gotta see the jury and all of that business. To have your case. This is a carryover from COVID and whatnot, and
Can't seem to snap it. I mean, everything's going that way. They won't change back.
can't argue that.
That's all I got.
Okay. Anything else needs to be brought forward?
Education.
Is there any closing public comment?
Well, we're gonna clean it. We can use it or something.
Okay,
I'll tell you what I was telling. Wedford. Minnesota has the Office of Justice programs with grants, training, it's 24,000. Ranging up to 112,000 for juvenile detention centers. That's pretty tall. The Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention for the federal level has grants right now through the end of May. And so if there's something that you can target need, we can try to.
that would have been helpful information.
Well, I can't talk during the things.
I get it. I get it.
Letting you know.
Well, it's a good thing you told us.
No other closing comment? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Yep. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.